we ready? Good?
Yes,
Okay.
you're good to go.
Good evening. Welcome to the Rules Committee meeting for the Cleveland Community Police Commission. We are starting a little bit late at 6:14, but thank you for joining us online. So we will be doing, going to run through a roll call, and then we're going to move quickly to old business because we have two rules that need refinement tonight. So Commissioner Benito. Present. Commissioner Donaldson.
Present.
Commissioner Van Lier.
Present.
Commissioner Zayed. Present. And I'm present, so we have quorum and the full committee is here. So our old business is bylaws 1.44 and 1.45. We made very good progress last meeting on this. So I think that, do we have any suggestions? Most of, I think, the first page of 1.44 has been edited. So how would we like to proceed? Because these two are kind of contingent bylaws.
So to the chair, my understanding is that we have two ways of proceeding. There is a motion on the table from last meeting, and we made a lot of changes during that while that motion was on the table. We could either pull the motion from the table and, with the understanding that what we've done is there in the draft, and then proceed just in a line by line discussion so we don't have to keep doing motions, or we keep the motion on the table and keep motion moving to amend. I would suggest that we pull the motion with the changes, with obviously grammatical issues, but with the changes as we made them last meeting, and then proceed, to finalize 1.44 and 1.55.
Okay, do we have any other thoughts about that? Thank you, Mr. Van Lier. So you're suggesting we go through just together and from the beginning, from the top?
No, actually, I'm suggesting that we pull the motion, but we have the changes that are already been made, and we start where we left off.
Do we know exactly where we left off? I don't think we're done with 1.44 yet.
No, we weren't.
I think it was like the first page maybe, and maybe to bullets.
Jason, do you remember?
So in the thing that I sent out 2 days ago, reviewing it, there's a note in there. And we stopped, it's unclear where exactly we stopped, not from the video, but it's somewhere under the duties of the coach, duties and responsibilities of the co-chairs. We're all the way through the first page. And then when you get to the second page, there's an item that says the co-chairs shall give a report at each full commission meeting and shall include, and there was some debate about that. And then when they would send the email summary, and that's the area where we are currently at.
So,
Yeah.
I did want to mention, and I couldn't see it. I looked through the whole manual. The reason why I sent out that email is there not a missing portion from this? Where from the manual? Because I don't see where we had the timeline for. Remember, we had a timeline. Have we just deleted all that?
We deleted that because the timeline we put in was for the first year.
So we need to write it, but we need to put that somewhere because now we don't know exactly when we even elect these co-chairs, right? So that needs to be amended.
I think we wouldn't have the timeline of, it wouldn't be the same timeline, but
Well,
yes, we should have a timeline.
It says terms will be 1 year, co-chair.
But remember the dates that we have?
Those dates were,
yeah.
no, those dates were specifically saying for this year, it's going to be in March. And that was because the dates were not going to be later than February because we was going to be after February.
I know.
So that's why the timeline was there.
But
So
we
now
don't
the date is just no later than February of each
But we
year.
haven't passed this yet, so why was it already changed online?
Oh.
Right, so we have to have that be there.
Well, I think we already
It was already
voted to
amended.
change. We
Yeah.
voted to
Okay.
amend it.
Because there was a missing portion about the ex officio that wasn't updated, so I'm just concerned that, okay, where is it? Maybe we should make it more, okay, so why don't we, so where,
So I would make a motion that we pull this, the original motion from last meeting, and accept, with the understanding that the changes that we've already made are there, and then we proceed to discuss more as a discussion as opposed to a motion, because that's just a different process. It might be an easier process. So I would make a motion to do that if that's what's needed.
I'll second, and but I guess I'll wait to make my comment because I've made it second.
any discussion? So the motion is to start from that point though.
Oh, that was,
That was my comment,
Oh.
maybe just to start with.
can I offer a friendly amendment to, let's just
Start from the top.
start from the beginning and just go through it the way that we went through it, like, at the beginning of
But
our work as
quickly,
a committee.
just so we can get the context right,
Okay.
where we are. Okay,
That's
Yeah, so,
You accept my friendly amendment?
so why don't you make the motion again, so it's clear where,
I move to pull the amendment, to pull the motion to approve rule 1.4.4 and instead start at the beginning and just discuss collaboratively, make any changes that need to be made.
So since she seconded that.
Well, I made a new motion,
Oh, okay.
so my motion needs a second. I second that.
okay, do we want any discussion, further discussion? Oh, we'll take a vote. Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Lier,
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed,
Aye.
and I vote aye, so motion passes, so we will start at the beginning. All right, here we go. Is there any way to live edit that we can see on here? So we can know exactly what is being written down?
Sure, I could set it up there. I'm gonna
Let's
put it
just
on,
start though.
I'm gonna put it on OneDrive, so it's a shared doc.
Is it gonna be on our,
So
or at least we can
give
look
me-
it up
Give me a
here,
second here.
so
I'm
we
gonna,
can
I'm
make sure
gonna,
that
I'll put it on the screen, but, I'm also gonna share it as a OneDrive document.
Just Shirley, so as we're going through this, the idea is that we will go through the entire document and then make a motion at the end, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Because
then
especially
approve it at the
because these two are, we want to make sure that they are done together. All right, so. We're ready. What is the,
So Jason, can we be able to access this on our computers or?
Yeah, I just put it on OneDrive, so. Give me the share link.
Okay.
Does anyone else want it right now?
what is the new one?
I don't know, I'm on my next one. It's written somewhere.
I think that's what I do.
Is it? Yeah, I feel like it's over here. Yeah, there it is.
I can't even see the network.
Go around your light up. Oh, there we go, thanks.
Oh, here it is. Yay.
Okay, so then, I don't need to belabor this point, but then these changes were not made during the meeting, they were made on December 4th, or,
That was when I was making sure that they were correct. So, yes, so this is, see these notes here? This is originated with Shandra. This is her document that she crafted on 9/18. That is the motion that Pete put on the floor was her document. So I'm going off of her document and
I'm
editing.
not questioning that part, but when were the red things made? Because this looks,
So these
Also-
red things were confirmed by me the day that I sent it out on 12/4. So I watched the video, made the corrections here, and fixed it up the way it's supposed to be based on the video.
because he did it after, from the video, not from the live discussion. Can't hear everything from the video.
You can hear everything from the video. In fact, it's even captioned, so you can see the words that are being said.
But not from the whole group.
Yes, from the whole group.
Could, in the future, could we make the live edits as we're going? Because this is, I mean, it's onerous to go back through a meeting and redo
To
the
the
whole
chair,
entire
that's
meeting.
what we're doing right now.
Right,
We've all got the
so,
document, we can do it.
all right, let's start from the top then. Would someone like to read out loud so we can have maybe, so we can at least give people listening in some ability?
Can you see?
I can't.
Sure, I'm happy to read. 1.4.4 Leadership. City of Cleveland Charter 115.5 mandates the selection of a chair. The commission, through its rules, will utilize a co-chair system to meet this requirement. It will select its own co-chairs from among the members. The process will be as follows. Each co-chair will be elected in a separate ballot process. The process will be a written ballot that identifies the commissioner casting the vote and the name of a single candidate of choice. The top candidate will be considered the winner, provided they reach a simple majority of the votes cast. Missing a period there.
Missing many periods.
Hmm?
Missing many
So
periods.
let's do a point of clarification here. We have always said grammar comes last. The
Okay.
most important thing is the wording. So grammar edits are not something that need to be
Well,
motioned
that
unless they
was-
change the context. So this is, drafts are always messy. We clean it up and
Yeah.
submit it in the document in the end.
Well, as we're going through it, why don't we just put the periods in? So it's not that,
Okay.
because we don't, because then we're changing the grammar afterwards, we don't know if it changes the context.
Okay, my apologies.
Okay, is there, I think we know what this process looks like, the ballot process. Is it clear to everybody reading? Will be selected in a separate ballot, okay,
Should we maybe finish the section
sure,
before we, yeah.
the top candidate.
The top candidate will be considered the winner provided they reach a simple majority of the votes cast. If a candidate does not reach a majority, there will be a runoff of the two top candidates. The process will be repeated for the election of the second co-chair. I think that's clear.
I agree.
I
How
also
How about
did,
we write the top candidate in the first ballot will be considered, will, the top candidate. if
in
there
that
should be-
vote,
Yeah, right, the top count has to be in the first ballot, will be considered, that's a little ambiguous. In the first ballot cast, the top candidate will be considered the winner, provided they reach a simple majority of the votes cast.
I think it's clear that that's referring to what,
I mean, it's just process will be written in a written ballot, casting a vote and the single.
I mean, that sentence, if a candidate doesn't, the process will be repeated for the election for the second co-chair.
Yeah,
That kind of,
Well, I think it's not,
and above it says
I mean,
each
why does it
co-chair will be
say
elected in a separate
just
ballot
ambiguous.
process.
I mean, there's no harm in putting it in,
okay, what do you want us to do?
just, in the first, it would be, okay, in the first, because we're reading in order, so in the first ballot, in the first ballot round, or ballot, whatever we want to say.
I guess the only thing is if we do say the process will be repeated, then if we say the first ballot, and then if it's like repeat steps 1 through 5, and then we say first ballot, and then they repeat steps 1 through 5, I think that could be messy, but
But that's what we're gonna have to do, right? If we don't get majorities?
no, what I'm
First
saying is
ballot.
that if the end of the section is then we repeat the process again, and so I think that's why you want it to be not saying specifically the first ballot, because then when you go back and repeat it, anyway. I think it's,
Okay,
I think
okay, I
it's clear.
understand what you mean, so
It's
it's
clear as
saying-
it is, I think. I mean, it says each co-chair will be elected in a separate ballot process. That's the first line. and then, the process will be a written ballot, top candidate will be considered winner, and then the last line is process will be repeated for election of second co-chair. Seems clear, but I mean, if you
I
want to,
think if we don't reach a majority we need something, if no majority is reached in any of the ballot processes, the process just keeps continuing, right? Is that what we need?
well, I mean, if you have a race of two people, somebody's going to, unless too many people abstain, somebody's going to reach a majority.
Yeah, because it goes to a runoff.
Yeah.
If there's no clear winner from one ballot, it goes and immediately goes to a runoff between the top people on that ballot.
It's
On
a
that
simple
vote.
majority of the votes cast. So even if 5 people abstain,
Right. It's
you'll still get a majority.
Wait, well, what is it saying? If you go to the runoff and there's still not majority, what happens then?
So what Piet is saying is that it would be near impossible for that to happen.
Well, people could abstain.
Right,
No,
but
but
it's of the votes
of the
cast.
votes
So
cast.
if they abstain, then they didn't cast a vote.
Yeah, but should it be, it's a simple majority of then we should do a
Of the
simple
votes cast.
I think should we have a simple majority of the commission? That was the whole point, is that they would not be able to win unless they got the consent and support of at least a majority of the
That would
commission.
require every commissioner to be present. I mean, I'm not opposed
Or
to
not
theory.
like a majority of the commission, so it only requires.
I think it's that someone is abstaining from the vote. I think that they are not including their voice then. And so I don't think that then they're choosing not to be included. And so therefore, I don't think we should force, it's essentially saying that it has to be everyone has to vote then. And I don't think,
Well, not
people
everyone
are,
has to vote, we just have, one person has to get 7 votes.
No, one person has to get the majority of the votes cast. So if 7 people vote, somebody has to get 4 votes.
So if we do, instead, we should just do the majority of the commission.
no, I think of the votes cast.
Because
Then
if
you
you say the majority of the commission, that means if 2 people are absent, that changes that dynamic. I think the simple majority of the
Majority
votes
of the
cast.
full 13 commissioners, because that was the whole point, is that we would have whatever co-chair, because there was a co-chair that won with 5 votes.
I
They
think
did
that
not get
if
the-
people don't show up to the meeting where we're voting on the co-chairs, then they're not having a voice on the vote of the co-chairs. Like that's, I don't see how.
But-
So I think we are in a disagreement with whether it should be of people who are present voting, and people who are voting versus of the full commission. And I think that we understand each other's point. I think we just disagree.
That's fine, so, but if, in order to, I thought the whole point was that we should not have a co-chair that is not able to maintain, even in the initial election process, the support of the majority of the commissioners of the full commission.
My understanding, sorry, did you want to go?
No, I was gonna say, so, I mean, you brought up the 5 votes, but that was just because the vote was like so split. It
Yeah.
wasn't because there was a low number of commissioners that
Right.
voted.
That's fine, but if there is, say we have 2 candidates and nobody attains a majority, then I think that means that they don't have the support of the majority. That's gonna be very hard for them to lead. Then we should either look for new candidates or re-caucus or redo the vote, because the whole point is to have leadership that is beholden to the majority of the commission. Because otherwise, we have a situation that they are going to be able to, they don't have a mandate here. So,
So, to the chair and everybody else, I guess I'm a little frustrated because we had this, this is why I didn't want to go back over everything. We had this discussion last time and we reached this language. And so I'm just concerned that we're reopening the thing and we're going to be doing this the whole time and we're going to have wasted a lot of our time in the last meeting. So I'm just concerned, this is why I didn't want to go back to the beginning.
no, I
We
understand.
talked about this and this is the language we came up with. I agree. I mean, I see your point, but I feel like people will make a choice if they don't come to the meeting or if they abstain. That is a decision they make unless there's some, emergency they can't be there. But most people are going to try to be at this meeting and we will get a majority of if not the whole commission, close to the whole commission. So I think people will vote. And if they don't show up or they abstain, that's a different way of voting. And there's not much we can do about that.
I see where everyone's coming from. When I edited, it was not to like rehash like a second thought. That was my intent in my head. Maybe it wasn't clearly reflected here, and we don't have the video to know exactly. It was to make sure that the co-chairs have an actual mandate. Like, for example, if we cannot get a majority for a second co-chair on the second vote, I would say then just have one co-chair. Because until we can get a majority to agree that we believe in this particular person, that I think is dangerous territory. So if you guys want to go ahead with it, I think it's not good to have the majority not be reflected. And one other thing, I would like to clarify, the abstention should not be like, I'm uncomfortable with this vote, right? We have to be willing to make decisions. The only legitimate abstentions using that vote, that type of vote, is if you have a conflict of interest or you don't have enough information because you missed meetings. So I'm hoping nobody abstains, so, but it's not like a binary situation, right? If they don't support the candidate, they just don't put the candidate up there. All right, Mr. Donaldson.
To the chair, I just want to make sure I understand what you're defining as majority. So if there were 13 votes, 5 people voted for one person, 3 people voted for another person, 2 people voted for another person, and then the other 3 voted for someone else. You're saying that the person who got 5 votes should not move forward as the co-chair because they didn't get the majority number of the,
Yeah, so in that case, both of these things are what we're saying, right?
No, and
because if that was what happened, is that when the votes, we're going to, it's not going to be split in the same way as the last election because we voted for them simultaneously. But we could theoretically have like 5 candidates again, so the votes will be split.
Right.
So if not one single candidate reaches, how it's written right now is the majority, say there are 13 there.
Right.
That means they need to get the majority, the top candidate needs to get 7, right?
That's
In
what I
order
was
to
trying to
win.
understand.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they need to get 7. So if someone got 5, but they still had more
They
than
would
the
not.
others, then you're saying they
Just go
shouldn't move forward and you should just keep
Do a
voting
runoff.
until
Right.
people decide to change their votes to get up to 7.
No, we were gonna take the next 2 candidates, so the 5 and the 3, is that the 2 candidates would run together, would go back into the ballot process. And then the choice, because the choice is 5 people, now the choice is 2, so the vote shouldn't be split in the same way.
So to
So
that
this
point,
is,
people would have to change, like if I voted for candidate X who didn't make the runoff, I'd have to decide if I wanted to vote for candidate A or B.
And then this process is there a name for this?
Runoff,
No, like this method of voting.
just a runoff, right?
It's not ranked choice.
It's not ranked choice, exactly.
Oh, it's not ranked choice.
Not
Ranked
ranked
choice
choice
is
is
way
much
too
more
complicated
complicated.
for us in this situation. I tried.
So, but my concern is slightly separate from that, is that if we are never in any of the runoffs able to obtain a majority of the commission, if they're absent, I understand, but if there is actual disagreement, I don't know. I mean, then they don't have a mandate. Then then it goes back, then it doesn't fulfill the intent of the first condition, which is that the top candidate should get a majority of the votes.
I think that we are having the same we're having a circular conversation. I disagree. And I think that one thing, we have already gone through this, and I think that we should move on. But I think that one thing that we could do is we will have another election process in the next couple months. I think we can see how it goes. If we think that it needs tweaking again, we can do that.
I mean, I hear you, but I don't think just because something has been done, that is a reason that we don't look at it again. These are very.
We have looked at it. We've been discussing it
Right,
for
but
about 20 minutes, and so we
Again,
disagree.
I understand this, but again, I don't think that these are very important rules, and I don't think just because we've gone, or some people feel that we're done, that we should move on. All I'm saying, you guys can go forward with this, but I think I see a problem with this, is that if the intent is to have the co-chairs have the support and mandate of the majority of the commission, which I think is reasonable, because if we don't, look what we have right now. We have people that are not beholden to the will of the majority of the commission right now. And that was in a very unfortunate situation that has caused a lot of delay for the commission. If that's not the intent, that might not happen. And just because something doesn't happen doesn't mean that the rules were written correctly. It just means it didn't happen in that scenario. So I'm just saying that my intent was that whoever is elected, either one of the co-chairs, that they receive the mandate, and the majority support. They have to go and talk to people and convince people beforehand that they are. And that's the whole point, is that if you make people achieve the majority mandate, you force them to go talk to people and explain themselves. Here, it doesn't. So again, they're not beholden, they're not responsible necessarily to the commissioners.
Okay, I hear you and I understand your rationale. I just also still don't agree. And I feel like maybe you're repeating yourself because you think that we don't understand, but I understand why you're suggesting this, and I understand that you believe that this is an issue. I don't believe it's an issue. I mean, I think that perhaps if we...
So what, can I ask what, instead of saying you don't believe the issue, let's have a real discussion. What is the rationale?
We
for
have
that?
had a real discussion. I feel like you are continuing to push this just because you are not happy that we don't agree with you.
No.
But
This is a real issue. If we don't theoretically, philosophically believe that we have had this problem right now. We have people that did not get right.
Okay, you are repeating what you just said. I would love to hear from the other commissioners who haven't spoken to see what you think.
Well, I have a question through the chair to Commissioner Donaldson. So after you asked that question and received clarity, and it seemed like, what do you think? Do you agree with Commissioner Wang on
So,
the necessity for the runoff?
It's not the runoff walls.
so my response before you asked that was gonna be that Commissioner Wang stated that if we're okay with this, we can move forward. So if we are okay with this, let's move forward. I'm personally okay with the way that it's written as it is. Yeah.
I mean, considering what we went through within the past year, I do understand why you would want to change that. I mean, I just think that there's so many scenarios that could happen that could affect it either way, whether we keep it like this or change it. Like you said, people can be absent, people can abstain, and so if people were to abstain or people were to be absent, what would your solution be to that?
They would have to go and get the support of the people, and that's the whole
So will we
point.
not have the election that day because the majority isn't present?
No, they would know that if they don't get the majority, they don't win. So if they want to win, they need to go and talk to their fellow commissioners.
So let's assume that happens,
Mhm.
but maybe 3 commissioners aren't there and then other commissioners abstain, so they don't get the majority anyway.
Well, if they don't care about the candidate enough to show up to vote, then they really don't have the support of that person. I mean, this whole point is like, should someone have the power of the co-chair without having the support of the majority of the commission? I think this is a real deep issue that we have right now. I understand people want to move on, but this is a core issue we don't know who's going to win. This is the problem. So you have to set up the guardrails right now. You're right. There's so many different scenarios, and we can't plan for those particular scenarios, but we can plan for the principle that we want fulfilled, which is that if you're going to lead, you should be able half of us should support you at least. And if you can't maintain that, remember, we're giving them the super majority to be removed. So this is serious business. For them to be elected with less than a majority, but then we need a super majority to remove them, that's a big gap.
So I go back to Commissioner Donaldson's question, like, if you said it's okay to move on, I'm
Move on,
in favor
but
of
with
moving on.
caution, I think this is going to be a problem. So we can change it later on. But again, it's almost, the frustration I have is that we already went through a lot of struggle this last year, and we are not taking this, to me, with the minute detail that I think we need. But we can move on with the note that, go ahead.
we can move on.
Do you want to
All
keep
right.
reading?
Keep reading. Sure.
Should there only be one candidate interested in serving as co-chair, the commission may proceed with a single chair according to the voting process above. Co-chairs have a unique set of responsibilities and duties for the purpose of serving the commission. However, these do not reflect an ability to control the commission or countermand the work of CPC committees or the full commission. Duties and responsibilities of the co-chairs shared. The co-chairs shall preside over all meetings of the commission and have the right to vote on all questions. The co-chair shall ensure that all municipal and state laws and the CPC Operations and Procedure Manual are adhered to. The co-chair shall ensure that the activities, rulings, and affirmative votes of the commission are faithfully executed and carried forward without delay. The co-chair shall act as the spokespeople in all matters pertaining to the commission as a whole. The co-chair shall sign all documents on behalf of the commission after approval by the commission. The co-chair shall perform such other duties and responsibilities imposed upon them by the commission. The co-chair shall act as the direct supervisor of the executive director or designate an alternate commissioner to assume this duty. The co-chair shall give a report at each full commission meeting and shall include 1. A list of non-CPC committee or full commission meetings attended by either or both of the co-chairs, any relevant updates or action items from those meetings. 2. A status update on votes taken by the full commission in previous meetings requiring ongoing action from the co-chairs and or other commissioners.
This is all good. I have a practical thing to say about this that just came up. I was in an email string with the law department because Jason connected with them to have the contract finalized with Mark Wallach. And I think Piet has seen it and Kyle has seen it. But there was a lawyer on there and she was writing the contract and she, for whatever reason, asked, oh, we should put a time limit on Mr. Wallach's, for him to finish this. There were a lot of confusing things happening, and what was troubling to me is that co-chair Rodriguez just said without any input from me, any input from the commission, that whatever time, that let's put the timeline on there. It's troubling because this is Mr. Wallach's work contract, so he has the right to negotiate these terms. She had no mandate from the commission to do this. And then co-chair, what was additionally troubling is that co-chair Ridgway came in and said, well, you didn't tell us that we couldn't negotiate this. So my concern is we don't know what will happen with the co-chair election. Do we need to be more explicit that unless they have that, I think there's a misunderstanding about how co-chairs work in practice. The power of the co-chairs are given by the commission when we elect them through us, right? Through our majority. Again, it should be a majority vote. Whatever power is given to them emanates from the commission. That means the commission has, through its majority vote, also those powers. But we have a situation that now, documented in email saying, unless you tell us you don't have this power, we're going to exercise these powers. It created a lot of conflict, and now that contract is now at a standstill because of that conflict. So I'm just wondering, do we need to say, unless something, we don't have any knots in here, right? And that was just a situation that came up a week ago. I cannot fully predict, because we cannot fully predict everything that someone could do in every scenario. But if we're tasked with making a laundry list of things that the co-chairs can't do, we should put up there that we should put up a guardrail for that. Because, and this is not I think we're being very optimistic that we will have hopefully co-chair leadership that is going to be more representative of the majority will of the commission. We don't have any guarantees that. So if we could just put our heads together right now.
So I'm just if you have some ideas about what you want to put in there, but my concern would be we need the co-chairs to be able to act with some flexibility and with some agency, right? We can't be micromanaging the co-chairs, although I do think we need a certain amount of transparency and communication with them. I would be very hesitant to sort of start delineating things too much, because that will, in a different way, will hamstring and hamper the work that we're trying to do.
Okay.
I think that with your example, the thing that comes to mind to me is not that they need a list of things that they can't do, but rather it sounds like we need some clarity over contracting and who's in charge of the contract negotiation when the commission takes on contractors.
Oh, so this is a unique situation. Normally, the executive director would handle all contracting, except there is potentially a conflict of interest here in this particular contract. So that leaves a void that I guess we should have designated. Otherwise, contracts from start to finish would be between the executive director.
Likely not to be repeated.
I think the lesson learned here is as we move forward, motions like entering into contract with this law firm, right, need to be clearer and written in advance, right? So I think the motions were done on the fly, and I think now that we've learned that lesson, with a motion like this, you designate in a situation that we learn from and show organizational growth who exactly the point person is for that contract. If the commission at its discretion chooses to manage that contract directly with law, I think that's within their ability to do so. Or in that they say we from this point forward, the executive director is to manage the logistics of this contract, right? So those are.
But I think, if I pardon, this still is not the core issue. The core issue is not who manages the contract. The core issue is that the contract reflects the client's wishes, which is the commission. So I don't want it to be just like the executive. Do you have the ability to
the motion would say what the wishes are. So I think with the lesson learned here is that we didn't have that specificity in the thing saying we would like this to be resolved within 120 days, right? If that would have been in the motion, that would be a set point. So if you put those guardrails, so to speak, when you approach it for each individual thing, you don't need something in your rules that could limit you or harm you later, because you will. The other issue that I see here is lack of accountability. So writing this rule doesn't mean, the problem that I perceive at this point is there is tremendous amount of rule breaking on this commission. So these rules to me, in my professional opinion, have amounted to very little because we still haven't answered the question of how do you hold someone accountable for their responsibilities in this rules, or when they flat out disregard the rules, which we've seen happen several times. So you can write whatever you like in here. If you don't address the accountability question, it doesn't matter.
Right, so I wholeheartedly agree with that, because here we says, even to get them to do these things, they haven't, currently our coaches have not done quite a few of these things. So what is the consequence, or what not maybe the consequence, what is the incentive? And this is, again, goes back to, I believe, the power structure and the removal process. The only incentive for them is to have a mandate that they are, beholden to us. There's no other power that we have. Right now, I mean, unless you want to change the removal power and lower it, I think this is a big, big gap now. We don't even have a majority vote to get them, and we have super majority to get rid of them. And then we have all these responsibilities that we know the coaches, and again, we don't know who's going to win. We have to write the rules, not for our hopes, but also for our potential, So
To the chair, I think Commissioner Donaldson, were you assigned? Wasn't there a section we were discussing that dealt with discipline and how to handle discipline? And didn't you ask for some? Yeah. So there may be another section, it might not be specifically this, that addresses all commissioner behavior and how you approach that from a disciplinary standpoint. Because we have the code of ethics, we have the professional responsibilities, right? But we've talked about everything from what happens to a commissioner who misses meetings to what happens to a commissioner whose behavioral is outside the behavioral standards, right? So we still haven't addressed any time you break the rules, whether you're a coach or a commissioner, where that is and what the disciplinary and accountability section is. So,
I mean, but to her point, if there's no rules saying that she can't speak on that, but we all know it's inappropriate.
It's logical.
What would the consequence be, or what would the line of accountability be if they can technically do it? Even though we just know.
I just want to share some. I called Coach Rodriguez, and she refused to stop doing it. She refused to stop. It made actually the law department very uncomfortable. And then Coach Ridgway was the one that said, "Well, you didn't tell us not to do it." Logically, it should have been the ad hoc committee that would have any purview over this. So we have to prepare for the worst case scenario.
To your point, it's in the motion, so they would be obligated to follow the motion because that would be the will of the commission. So it's already in there, right? If a motion is passed by a majority and the motion spells out exactly who's responsible for what, if they were to breach that motion, then they are in breach of the contract because that's a majority motion of the commission. So you can always, your motions matter, your wording in your motions have come up several times. And I think that is something we need to work on as a group here about, thinking through motions, thinking through the wording very carefully and being very specific in what exactly we want to see out of each motion. And if it requires adjusting actions or directing certain commissioners or committees, so establishment of the ad hoc committee should be very clear. And if at the establishment of that ad hoc committee, you say, they will also be the committee in charge of setting the terms of this contract, this whole problem would be solved. So there's a lot of different ways to tackle that same thing rather than writing a bunch of rules around so many different scenarios.
It's not scenarios. I guess my problem is you're using a motion to control what the co-chairs should be. There should be another fail-safe from the other end. I think that our motions, we were fighting so much on that motions. It was a written motion. It was written by an attorney friend of mine. He couldn't even perceive, because I think he is a more rational person, how someone could twist something around. So to only have motions be the fail-safe against this, it makes me a little bit concerned. So we either have to add some language to this or add some disciplinary, or I would say lower the removal process. There has to be something standard. There has to be something that pushes against them and makes the co-chairs do the right thing logically. So I know common sense.
To the chair, I just want to say that I don't think it's fair or professional to constantly address the actions of our current co-chairs if they're not here to talk about their standpoint or what happened, in their opinion. I understand there might have been emails sent and things like that, but I think some of the conversations that are happening could be considered hearsay. So, I just don't think it's fair for us to bring those into what we're doing with the rules. Also,
email right now.
I don't need the email. I'm just saying in general. I said that it might be an email, but I think there are additional conversations and actions that might have happened that are being talked about.
I'm sorry, Charles.
and
There's a problem.
Can I finish
No, there's a problem when we continue to ignore the behaviors of people.
Can I please finish speaking? So the other thing I was going to say is that it seems like we're writing rules based on what people are doing, and I understand that, but then it just seems like we're getting very specific and we're saying, well, this person did that, so let's write a rule, or let's make sure they're not able to do this too. I just don't believe that that's the best way to write, because we can't write a rule that's going to meet every single scenario that's going to come up. So I just feel like we're going in circles. And I get that there are concerns about the way that things have happened in the past year and the things, the way that things could potentially happen in the future. But I just don't understand, what we are doing right now as the Rules Committee. I honestly don't get how every single time we talk about the rules, there's 50 different scenarios of what potentially happened, and then we have to write a rule, and then we're going to think about this, and then we're going to think about another scenario, and then we're going to bring this into it. And what did this person do? And what did she say? And look at the email. I just don't think that that's how you should go about writing rules for our manual as commission.
With all due respect, Commissioner Donaldson, I disagree. I think we should look at the emails. I think we should look at the behaviors. I think we should address the actions. I think we should reflect on our behavior and see what has happened over the past year and address it. And we must address it, and we must follow through with some type of discipline, some type of consequence. We must change things if they aren't right. We were new. We didn't know what was going to happen, but now we know what people can do, and in different ways people can manipulate our rules. We need to think about how we can ensure this doesn't happen again. We can't continue to let the status quo and things that are happening continue. We can't turn a blind eye to people's behaviors. There are people that are doing things that are detrimental to the entire commission and individuals. I've had people be instructed not to respond to emails, and they respond to emails. that they have no authority or no business responding to, and they think they have the authority to do that. That needs to be checked. We cannot continue to let things like that to happen, and all because it maybe it hasn't affected you yet. So it's no skin off your back, but things have affected me, and I think it needs to be addressed. And it's affecting how we run the commission and things that are happening in our ability to even go forward with the task that we are set here to do. So I disagree. We do need to address these things. We do need to reflect on the past, so that way we can go forward in the future and it won't happen again.
I just want to add to that, to the chair, that I think that we can obviously reflect on past behaviors, but I think we have to be honest with ourselves and say that everyone at some point has done something that could be considered breaking a rule. So what I don't want to happen is for people to all of a sudden say, well, this person broke a rule, so we're going to go after them, when you probably broke a rule yourself. And I say you as in like, you know, just in general. Because there have been times when there have been things happening, whether it was the way people have behaved, which if you look at the ethical responsibilities, that could be considered breaking a rule. There could be, for examples, when we get emails sent to the full commission, and then certain people respond to that email, and then our executive director has to step in and say, just be mindful that this could be considered a full commission meeting, and then people keep responding. So I think what I'm really trying to say is that people should really take a look at what their own actions as well when we are making these decisions on how people should be disciplined or whatever, because no one on this commission is perfect. And I think that the idea is that there are some who are following the rules 100%, and there are some who are not. This is not true. So just hold yourselves accountable when you talk about how we should write the rules.
I totally agree with, I agree with what you're saying to an extent, but I think a minor violation is totally different than a violation that could impact the nature of our work.
So minor violations.
I think, okay, I will say that regarding our emails, I do appreciate Executive Director Goodrick trying to keep us very safe, but I've talked to lawyers, and we are, unless it is a meeting, you know, we do have to watch that. I do not think that I personally have responded in a way that makes it a meeting. However, what I hear from both of you is he's concerned, if I can, you know, that if it's too stringent rules that we start nitpicking and we miss kind of the forest of trees. She's concerned that we don't have rules, that we can't hold people accountable. This is why I was talking about, if we can reframe the conversation, how you can't manage every scenario because you can't write every scenario and imagine it. And quite honestly, we have been stretched to our imaginations here about what different scenarios can be. So again, if we can reframe it in terms of how we balance the power, right? The only thing we can manage is how we take away their power, how we give someone power and how we take it away, how we discipline someone, that's taking away their power as a commissioner in that respect, right? So if we, instead of looking at these, like obviously the minutia is important, but this is why I was talking about the majority, going back to my original point about the voting, is that you don't have the power balance here. And so I hear both of you, and I do think though, we shouldn't make blanket statements like everyone's making mistakes, so we're all forgiven. I think that is missing also the details. So the details and the forest are important here. And I think that Commissioner Zayed is correct that, let's just say it. We've had community members worried that this commission is being pulled in different directions from different political entities. And I do want to say nobody owns this commission. Not one single commissioner owns the commission. And that is why we need to make sure that all 13 voices are heard through a majority vote. So if we can move on, if you are happy with this, but we have to, again, address what Mr. Goodwin has said, is that there has to be an accountability arm here. We don't know.
Separate rule.
It's the another rule.
Separate rule.
1.2.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted a simple addition, like, if we don't tell you to not do something, you can't do it either necessarily, I mean,
Well,
come on, it's apparently she had a different scenario. Commissioner Zayed, someone else, she had the same experience to me that did not have the authority, went ahead with it. So it's not just one scenario. I'm mentioning the anecdote not to not to reveal what they've done. It is all matter of public record, but to show that through the anecdote, we are having a pattern of behavior that needs to be, and the pattern behavior is misuse of power. Go ahead.
So I think that one of the things that we have added to address this was that there has to be an update on all the non-CPC, like non-committee or full commission meetings that were attended by any co-chairs, any relevant updates or action items from those meetings. I know that we're talking about some email decisions, but I think that there's ways that we can support transparency to ensure that those decisions aren't being made
What do
without.
you need to say unless you have the authority, explicit authority of the commission? I think what I'm asking for is something that is in Robert's rules. The commission, the power given to the co-chair comes from the commission. They cannot exercise their authority without the will of the commission. And that's what's happening with every vote. We have a majority will that's not being exercised 2 times over.
So I think the challenge is there's a reason why most job descriptions say and all other duties as necessary and don't say you may only do the duties that are listed on this job description, because it is really difficult to write out every single thing that somebody might have to do as part of their role as co-chair. And if we put in anything that says, if we put in an item that says that if they're doing something outside of this list, that they must be given the explicit permission of the commission to do so, I think that is going to be
No, I think it's
really tricky.
I would say explicit. It has to be an expression of the majority will. That would solve everything. Is that if they reflect the majority, even if I'm in the minority, I have to be okay with that. But
we hear your point about, but it feels like every single conversation we're having, you are going back to the discussion that we already had about the voting.
But that discussion, in my view, is not finished, because unless we don't have a balance of power here. There seems to be no willingness to confront the power struggle that has been the last year. That has taken a lot of time from everybody's schedules, taken a lot of emotions. But we have a chance right now to balance that power. And again, we're being a little bit too optimistic. It won't happen again. How do we know? You have to balance the power just to balance the power.
I disagree with you that the vote is going to protect from all of this, because what we're talking about is an affirmative vote to elect the co-chairs. When how the co-chairs would have been elected at the beginning of their term would not have prevented discontent that people have with the co-chairs as currently, because they hadn't done the things yet. So saying that, having a majority vote for the co-chair election is going to somehow make it so that throughout the entire term they have the support of the majority of the commission is false, because there will be times where they have more support or less support based on their actions as chair. So I would really appreciate if we've already had that conversation for, I would say, the majority of this meeting, and we have all agreed to move forward.
You're trying to, again, this is the issue that we're trying.
That is not the issue as I view it, and
that is fine, but let me address your question. You're wrong about that, because if we had a rule that says someone cannot become co-chair without attaining a majority vote of the commission, one of the co-chairs would not have been elected, and people would elect it.
We don't know that.
We do that because they attain 5 votes.
We didn't use the same.
I understand that, but I understand. Let me finish, please. Then you could have gone into a runoff, and then the other candidates would have been chosen, and I doubt that candidate would have risen to the top from the other candidates. Please let me finish.
I do not feel comfortable with disparaging, saying that a co-chair would not have been elected.
By the votes. No, I'm saying by the votes alone, they wouldn't have not been elected by a majority. And so there would have been a runoff, which could have resulted in a different second co-chair being elected that could have balanced the power of the first co-chair.
You are speaking in complete.
But this is
no.
You have.
This is complete speculation.
I haven't finished my point yet, Commissioner Benito. Please let me finish. And this is the essential point. You are saying that this commission acts on majority will, except in the election of the co-chair, except in the election of its leaders, we have to act on majority will. That is a contradiction to me.
If I may, couple of things. One of our co-chairs was elected with majority.
Yeah, she was.
So,
That's fine, yeah. But there was another one that was not.
okay, you are saying don't interrupt, so please do not
Okay.
interrupt me. But I think that doesn't make that any, you know, as somebody else just said, like that person has gone forward and maybe not, doesn't have majority vote and everything, right? So, or majority support. So I don't think just that the fact that one person got 7 votes really, which is a majority, is definitive or anything, right? So I understand your point. I'd like to say though that we just need to move forward. I think we have a sense of where we want to be. There's a discipline piece to the rules that's going to be dealt with, and maybe some of this can be dealt with there. I agree with Commissioner Benito that we can't be defining every single thing that we need to provide the co-chair with some flexibility. Otherwise, we will not be able to move forward. We need to be able to hold them accountable and have clarity on when there is a full commission vote. Many of our votes actually, if there's somebody missing, there won't be a full vote of the majority of the commission either. A decision could be made with 6 or 5 votes if not everybody's there, right? So I don't think that idea of that pure majority, that 7 of 13 is really the solution. I think it's maybe in some ways ideal. I do think that we will have in this process that we've set out for election and the language that we have here for the co-chairs is sufficient and will move us forward. And will it be ideal? Will there be situations that arise? Quite possibly, quite likely. But I think we just need to move forward, and this is going to be good enough. And if we see some problems in the future, then we're going to have to deal with it. But I don't think we can predict everything that will happen. And I think, you know, there's a general sense that this language will do. And I think anytime you start talking about not allowing action unless you have the full majority support, then that's just going to hamstring us.
What my point is, not, again, you're saying the negation of what I'm saying. I'm saying, don't we find it important that our leaders, the co-chairs, should be elected with the majority, which that I'm hoping that everybody will arrive at that.
We've already moved past from that. We've already discussed that. And we've said we're going to move on, and we're not.
We'll move on, but we will have to discuss it with the removal here because now the gap is even further from what I had originally. So I'm just forewarning you that I'm going to talk about this and move on to that section. If you would like to continue, Ms. Benito.
Sure. Were we at the co-chair shall send an email? Okay. The co-chair shall send an email summary from regular meetings between the CPC executive director and the co-chairs that outlines topics discussed, high-level discussion summary, and action items. It is preferred that committees described below that the is there something missing? Because we don't have a list of committees.
So this is, I checked the original draft that was sent to me and there was nothing here, so it was bizarre to me too.
The committees are down to 1.4.5.
Yeah, so I
Just
think
describe it in
something.
1.4.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can we change that then?
So do you
The
want me
committee-
to just delete this out of here? And then pick up the terms will be 1 year in the co-chair, because this seems to be, I mean, I'll just right now just cross it out for the moment and we'll determine where it goes later. But I think somehow it got in there in a draft, corrupted or accidentally.
Okay, sure. Sounds good.
Because it has your notes on it from or let's see here, that's just me deleting it, but it had another thing that popped up earlier, so. But this is where you would pick up after this last, if you want continuity here. The co-chair shall send it, so that is the end of their duties. And then it talks about the term will be 1 year and co-chair shall be selected no later than February of each calendar year with the exception of the first year.
Okay.
Wait, so we're deleting that whole section, but how?
No, it's just we're gonna table that section and put it when we
In
talk about
1.4.5.
committees.
So do you want to move it right now?
So I think there may have been a bullet missing here about co-chairs have the ability to select committee members if in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go back and reconcile that with what is in here. So let's see.
Yeah, the language you just deleted.
Yeah, so
It
it's
has
there.
some of that
It's in
language
it's in our current rule. I think it's just poor wording, but it is another duty of the co-chairs what it's saying is that below, we go into committees, it's preferred that committees described below are seated voluntarily. However, in order to ensure essential business of the commission's mission is conducted, the co-chair shall appoint as necessary committees and ex officio be a member of all subcommittees.
So maybe what we just said is it is preferred that committees are seated voluntarily.
Yeah.
However, to ensure an essential business of the commission's mission is conducted, the co-chair shall appoint as necessary committees and be, or if necessary instead of as necessary.
Yeah, because it's missing this whole ex officio in the draft you sent over, Chandra. So there's a whole section here that talks about that we changed. This is what we changed on May 10th.
So it's missing.
So
because
this
you made-
draft that I'm going off of that was
It's
sent,
missing
for some
parts from-
reason was missing this part about ex officio.
Because that wasn't updated in the original draft.
No, it is in our rules. So this is the rules online.
It is after I told you it wasn't in the rules, it was updated later on. So there was this portion that said, what does ex officio mean? What rights do they have? We can add that in right now, we might as well, because it has to be in
Yeah,
that
so I
section.
can read it right from our rules online, see what it says, and we could correct that. So, because it does have to be in there, so let me pull that up if you give me a minute. So I will just cut and paste it from here, and we'll drop it right in here. And so I think what happened is the page break might have also caused that. So let's bring that back. So this is the way it reads. And then underneath that is so that's the way it's in the rules now. So I think Chandra had added some things in here. Let's see here. Or that's just what it did is just blend the page break into one.
Okay,
Because here's the page break, see? So when it was cut and paste, it blended all these bullets into one paragraph. That's probably why it looks like one big long paragraph. So
all right. So with that, do we still need that paragraph, non-voted minutes in these one paragraph?
this was your May 10th adopted amendment.
So why don't we put that first, because that defines their goals a little bit more, and then put the paragraph, it is preferred afterwards. Because something talks about committees, we should define what ex officio means first.
Would it make sense to just have an item that says to move these rules about committees to the committee section, and then have just an item that says see rules 1.4.5 for,
No, because it's about the co-chair's powers. We could duplicate it again, but it should be under the co-chair's powers again.
Okay.
I mean, I understand it's about.
yeah, I just think
committees,
it's kind of confusing because it's referring to a lot of information in 1.4.5, so I wonder if it just makes more sense to, but
but Does it?
I'm okay.
Does it?
So here's where it's in our rules now. So it starts here. This would be the actual part. So this is not what it says. This is what it says. It is preferred that committees described below are seated voluntarily. However, in order to ensure essential business of the commission's mission is conducted, the co-chair shall appoint as necessary committees and ex officio be a member of all committees. What that means, ex officio for co-chairs is defined in these rules as they have the right to attend and speak as if they are a committee member at all committee meetings, except meetings dealing with nominations or elections of co-chairs. Attendance is discretionary. Co-chairs cannot introduce motions or vote in committee meetings, and co-chairs do not count in the number for determining quorum or whether a quorum is present. So you guys had already amended that when you amended these rules in May.
Okay, so, co-chairs, I would like, if it's possible, to spell out seated voluntarily, because right now what's happening is that if somebody's if there's an opening on a committee, they email the chair and like you expressed to me that you're interested on this and that.
So that,
So
that,
there should be, what if there's a conflict between like two people want one spot?
well, that process should probably be described in the committee section. So this is just, I think it may be a bad wording of the sentence here because we're alluding to something that hasn't happened yet in the rules, right? But we're also connecting it to co-chairs having a responsibility. So I think it may be just that the wording isn't the best there.
Well, I would put the committee thing at the bottom, put the ex officio at the top, so. Let's just say commissioner, co-chairs are ex officio members of all committees, ex officios are not, I would like it a little bit more defined that it's not the rules of Robert's rules, but it's these rules.
Yeah, maybe we should just move that
Yeah.
whole part
Co-chairs,
to the committee section that's in the, of their ability to appoint.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense if it's simple.
co-chairs are considered.
Oops. Are considered ex officio members of all committees. And then ex officio is defined in these rules as defined in these rules as, okay, so then we cut this.
Can we make it a little bit more explicit because this is now in contradiction with Robert's rules with the voting?
Well, it's not in contradiction because Robert's rule says you define it in your home rules, right? If not, it defaults to Robert's rules versions of ex officio, that's why we did it.
I understand that, but again, not to be anecdotal, we already had a problem with this, with the.
Well, that's because we didn't follow it. So Robert's rules are very clear. Your home rules, your bylaws trump everything in Robert's rules, right? Only when it's undefined.
I
So
understand it would be, if, I don't know what the harm of saying that is explicitly, because this situation arose because we presumed something that ex officio meant in Robert's rules that
But
it
we
didn't.
hadn't defined it yet at that point.
No, we defined it in the meeting. We said they're not gonna vote, and then because we didn't write it down that they couldn't vote, Robert's rule said that they could vote, and we had a problem with it.
because we didn't define ex officio in our
Yeah.
rules. Now, we could take the word ex officio out
We just say
and
something else.
just say co-chairs, in
Our
relation to
members.
committees
Yeah.
and the co-chair's role, right?
Yeah.
You can eliminate that term so there's no confusion and just lay it out in plain language
Yeah.
and say, in relation to committees, co-chairs, the rules of co-chairs are as follows, right? So boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, and boom. And that way you eliminate that terminology that is not plain English that only exists in that, but
Right.
it's a way to just take confusion out of it. So,
So you would just be,
Just to remove the word ex officio, I think
yeah,
that
just
would.
take that word
Yeah.
out and just say, in relation to committees, the co-chairs have, the following rules apply to co-chairs, right? So, and then it just lists those bullet points underneath.
Is there a danger that now that we've taken out the word ex officio, that now it won't be explicitly connected to
the Robert's rules.
the
That's what I was
Robert's
thinking.
rules?
I think from what I understand of Robert's rules, if we have other rules that they supersede Robert's rules.
Supersede, so,
But I'm
yeah.
saying
As long as
that
we
it's-
have
If you're
clarity.
not using the
But
word.
since
would
you're
they
not using the word, you
connect
can't
that to
relate
that?
it to rules.
So-
You don't really need to
Doesn't
connect
matter.
it because we've eliminated Robert's rules versions of ex officio in relation to our own. So by doing that, we're cutting out that whole sections of Robert's rules that won't apply anymore. It would only be, these are our rules that define co-chairs' relationship to committees.
So they can't do that because this is our.
Yeah, they couldn't use that,
Well, we
because
just-
our rules are ahead of that.
If we're gonna get rid of ex officio, that just solves the problem. So if we're gonna get rid of that line, just get rid of it.
Well, then, but then it doesn't, the Robert's rule says ex officio.
No, but.
But
I
we don't
understand.
say this.
We
But
don't
we don't say it, so it's irrelevant.
But I'm
So,
just saying, is there any other ex officio powers that they have other than
No.
committees?
No.
In Robert's rules,
no,
that's explicated. Are you sure?
no, we defined it as this. So ex officio in Robert's rules means you're in all committees as a full committee member, basically, because you have an elected authority to do that. So that's much more broad. We limited it this. So, this is the way we operate in day-to-day now.
We don't give them ex officio powers in any how they're placed. It's the only place we use that word, right? Unless
Yeah,
there's
it's
another
the only
in
place
rules.
we
Yeah,
use
but we're
that.
taking the word out now.
Yeah, so
And it was a
It's just
legacy
apply.
word from our old bylaws that is just, I think a word that's thrown around without people really understanding. the-
Okay, so I see what you're saying, since we're not naming them as officio, then they don't
Yeah,
have
they're
any of
not
the
ex
Robert's
officio.
rules, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that is done, next,
so wait, let's make sure we have the language.
relation to committees, co-chairs again, no. Okay, are we okay with that?
Is that
So this
cool?
came from our, all right, so then terms, we want to continue. So we need to,
So,
So then we would go down to terms will be 1 year and co-chairs shall be selected no later than February of each calendar year, with the exception of the first year.
okay, so
so right now, then would co-chairs, because right now co-chairs can create, right now, is there any, okay, all right.
And you could actually, if you wanted to, you could put here co-chairs, we go back to that sentence we deleted, can select committee members when committee members will not seek voluntarily. Right, so you can add that here because it is it sets it up better, right, to explain their relationship to committees. So you can put that power back here, what we deleted to move down before, because that's what we had. If the committee doesn't seek voluntarily, co-chairs can assign.
I think the committee chair should have a say before the co-chairs in seating.
But that would be, well, that's
So then you're saying that if it's not voluntary by the people, then
right, but what if no one even
Co-chair.
wants to chair it? So there may be a time where there's a committee
they're the
that
last,
is
but
a
just make
problem.
them the last, yeah, make them the
So,
last, that's all I'm saying.
So how do we ever resolve that? If there's work that we have to do that people just aren't interested in, or they're too busy, so then how do we assign delegation of that?
What-
The co-chair should do the work.
One way to handle that, if you want to have committee chairs with them, say, in consultation, right? The chair, co-chairs with committee chairs, well,
Who has the ultimate authority if we can't force, who forces the
Because
person?
I think leaving a rule, we deleted it, so we have to make sure that we have a way to solve that problem, because that problem is inevitable to come up at some point. So we can either,
What is the scenario if two people want to be in one seat on the committee, who decides? The chair decides? Committee chair decides?
I think that right now, it's looking at the next rule. Because we used this time around, how were those decisions were made by the co-chairs, correct?
No.
There was an
They
ad
were-
hoc
yeah,
committee.
right now, our rule says if there's more than 5 commissioners interested in any committee, the co-chairs of the commission will have the final authority in determining how the committee is seated.
But they didn't, this time they did it voluntarily, someone left. There was
No,
one
there
policy-
were-
There was
there
a
were
policy
conversations
commission.
had.
Yeah.
At least the policy committee was overfilled and then
There were
one
a
person
couple
stepped up.
committees.
So at least the ones I
Yeah.
saw were
So-
not.
And at that time, the committees were all new, so there were no chairs to make that decision, right? So now we have chairs, so you can change this rule, because when we first established the committees, there was no committee chair, right? So there was no person to send that to for final.
So here are some options. Let's think about the options. One is co-chairs have final authority. That's up to them. Another option is the committee chairs, if they exist, have final authority. The other is that those two parties have to agree on this. I mean, I'm just saying, these are, let's think about practical ways to do this.
Or you could
Those
have
are,
the
they
committee
let the
vote.
the committee could vote, but it doesn't bring,
Yeah,
that's a option.
I think it makes the most sense to leave it for the co-chairs. They're the most neutral party in
I mean,
in when it comes to committees, in theory, I understand like,
I don't agree with that. I think that the co-chairs or the chairs, committee chairs know the work, know what, say you had two people that had equal interest, but there was a missing kind of, say, I don't know, Jim was gone or something, then you would need somebody.
yeah, but if the chair of the committee is elected by the members of the committee, then you could have a chair of the committee then say, well, I know this person's gonna vote for me, so I'm gonna choose this person over that person. That co-chair doesn't have conflict, doesn't have a conflict related to that.
but they do have a conflict going back to the original things that you have co-chairs that may not be representative of the majority will. of the
That has
commission.
nothing to do with,
That does have something to do with it, that's politics.
Yeah, you can also have a chair that's trying to stack the
Right.
committee,
That's
so
what
I
I'm saying.
mean, you're splitting hairs, it's
No.
a
The
matter of,
co-chair
well,
is-
how do you want
But
it
the
balanced?
co-chair could staff the committee too.
No, only if
But it
there's
wouldn't
more
be to
than
their own
one person
benefit.
interested.
Yes, it would, because
How?
they, how can you not see that if they wanted, say a co-chair wanted to, impede the work of one committee, they could, and there were
Sure.
people, they could send
but I'm
somebody
saying
in.
a direct benefit to their,
That is a direct
Leadership.
benefit to them, because that
Okay.
is what they, that's the same thing. So
they
why
have
don't
to, they have to do claim our goals, and then that's how it's
we,
decided.
random then, I guess it'd be random,
I
or
think
whoever
I think
first
random is
comes,
good.
sir, and we need to think about this, because
Sure.
we have potentially people leaving committees that are very,
I would say if there's more people than spots, then a random number generator is used.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think, speaking for me, myself as the chair of the accountability, I am concerned about, I would be concerned about some people at, like, say, if one spot was open, coming into that spot, and that's not because they would vote for me or not. That is because the work of the committee has to go forward. And the votes also determine the work of the committee, because if you can't get 3 votes out of committee, we're done. So. And also the work, like, I don't want a random person and the person doesn't do the work.
It's not a random person, it's one of 13 commissioners that's been,
Oh, there
hand
are,
chosen.
I am, yeah, okay,
So you can think on this, because you have time until you get to 1 point.
okay,
So
fine.
you could put it, you could visit
We
it
have-
in the committee.
We have hours before we get.
Well,
We have
except
half an hour,
that-
okay.
except to be fair, right now, we don't have that in here about
Right.
them.
This is the
Okay.
co-chair's power,
Okay,
so-
great.
Let's just think about it in our head for
Sounds
30 minutes and we can, okay.
Yeah.
The one thing that is missing is that we don't have the elements that are necessary for the election. That was in there before with the timeline. I do think there should be speeches, right? There should be some statement of a vision. Because before, remember, we had that conflict that we didn't want no speeches for some reason, which I think was not good. I understand, this time we'll give people more notice to do that. So what else would we like the candidates to do?
So are we going with, are we saying no later than February, or do you want to mandate that it is done at, well, I guess it kind of already mandates you have to do it at the
Yeah.
January meeting, right? So,
Yeah, it's
Or,
expensive.
no, yeah, that we should clarify if it's February 1st or February
Yeah.
28th or something, right?
Yeah.
Last day or the first day or the middle or whatever. So if it's the,
What is something, what if we don't have quorum? I mean, this is
Well-
very unnecessary. No later than February.
what does that mean though? You're right,
Yeah.
that makes it sound, to me, it makes it sound like the end of February.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we know already our schedule, right? So the way it reads right now, you'll have 2 opportunities to have an election, either your 3rd week in January or your 3rd week in February right now, right? Because you can't go to March and not have an election.
Right.
So you can either say, you mandate that every January you do the election, right? Or keep it as it is but so right now you have 2 options.
Right.
According to your current schedule, unless you did a special meeting for it.
let's leave it to so it is on the schedule for January, the election?
Well, it's not on the schedule,
I think it should.
but we knew that we elected late and this would be a short term, right? So we knew that it would then be a yearly term, and it just went,
I think we can leave it there. Let me give us a little bit of wiggle room
I
right now.
think we should
You
be
would say-
clear on what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think it should be January.
Either February 1st or February 20th, 29th.
So, but my point is, can we schedule it right now, this election? Because I don't want this
Why not?
negotiation about, what is on the agenda.
I think we could only schedule it if we can get this passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to get this passed in December, and then,
Because we can't do it, we can't say that it has to be elected in
Right.
January and then passed
but
in
knowing that
January.
everybody has
That's what
already
I'm saying,
passed it,
that's
so if it were to pass at your special meeting, or if we introduce this rule on December 13th, I don't know what's
This
happening
is
with that.
like when Kyle said he can't come to the meeting, I don't know other commissioners, so I don't know. That's why I was leaving February, not to delay it. But
But just because one commissioner can't come to a meeting doesn't mean we can't vote, so.
for the votes, we're not going to be, we can vote.
The people who are present can vote. at the meeting, at the meeting.
I know, but we,
I don't think everyone was at the last election.
no, I'm just saying, we don't even have it on the agenda right now, these rules, so we're a little
You
bit-
should also say when it transitions, so does it automatically happen at the election, or
Yeah.
is there a transition period?
Okay, so why don't we write, what do we want, to say no later than February 1st, 2024 will be selected, and, is that okay?
I don't think we want to put a
No.
year in
No,
there.
you don't wanna put a year in there.
Or
you
no
wanna
later
say-
than
February
first of each calendar year, sorry.
Yeah.
And I would like some type of presentation. I think that is reasonable for someone that's going to lead. Do we need to delineate it? It's just so that they can be also held accountable to whatever they promise in their campaign. So can we write that?
Yeah.
Elections, all candidates, we do need a timeline, when do we, or if we nominate candidates at the next meeting or the special meeting,
We could ask for expression of interest or something like that, yeah.
the expression of interest will be.
Nomination, whatever, I don't know. Yeah, it should be nomination, that's more clear.
Yeah, so we've done it, as
We
I.
did it through 3 meetings though.
So we've had nominations in real time, right? Most of the time, where people just declare at the meeting of the election. You can make it a more formal process here where they have to declare their candidacy, a set amount of time ahead, or they can't be considered at the meeting, right? So that way you at least know who's on your ticket before the meeting. That way you won't have any surprises of someone just jumping in an election at the last minute, So,
Yeah, are we,
so I guess it's worth a discussion of what you would like your process to be like and feel like. If you want it to be slower with campaigning, or do you want it to be just, we're doing this at one meeting, we're doing nominations, speeches, and election at one meeting, or are we having a preface to that where nominations occur at the meeting beforehand, and then, a campaign exists during that time period, right?
we should have some separation, I think. I mean, nominations we could do at the next meeting, is that okay? Is that, you have to get that on the agenda?
We could say that, nominations are declared at the December meeting each year.
Yeah. But a little short notice if somebody.
We could say a December meeting each year.
Because it could be the special meeting.
It could be a special meeting or it could be a.
So,
Hey, just something.
are we allowing people that cannot be at the, well, I guess they have to be at the meeting to nominate themselves? I mean, can other people nominate them?
Well, I think that's the point of a nomination. They have to accept, but I don't think they have to be at the meeting to accept. They could just say, hey, you were nominated and got seconded, so
Not a,
you can decline, but you were
not a
nominated.
great beginning to a campaign, not being present, but, okay, so that's the December meeting,
Hey, December meeting.
a December meeting. Or at a meeting prior to the election, how about that?
Sure.
The meeting prior to the election, can we write that? And what else do we want the candidates to do? They are allowed to obviously talk to other people. Is there a Q&A period for the other, that's public, for the other commissioners to ask the candidates questions? In the public, since we've been challenged that we want to be as public and transparent as possible. If there's concerns or questions, are they allowed to ask?
Okay. And you said you wanted to mandate speeches?
But we allow the opportunity, I don't think you can mandate.
Yeah, I think that should be
it.
optional.
Allow the opportunity to speak to the.
Because they
Commission
could,
public.
I mean, I'm pretty sure people have the option to caucus and campaign or what if,
I don't know, but the public should be able to hear what their vision is, right?
The public's not voting.
yeah.
But I mean,
But that's
giving
not,
them an opportunity, I think
I think it should
mandating
be
versus, if somebody wants to be at It doesn't, I don't know, it's just like,
Seems weird,
it seems
right?
weird, and it's like, it doesn't speak well.
Are
to their
encouraged,
competency.
are encouraged to speak. I mean, I feel uncertain about this because I do think that, no, I'm sorry, that it's a little bit
Candidates,
to say that
not
the
be present.
community's not voting. The community is the stakeholder in this, and I think they should be allowed to hear what people are going to promise and whether the co-chairs are going to promise. And I should hear it too. I wouldn't say Charles wanted to be the co-chair. He says something to her that he doesn't say to me. I would rather have it be on the record. What was
But he may
said.
not say that. He might,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he could change everything he said and not say any of that.
That's true. And Charles was like, his notebook, he was like,
Charles would definitely do that.
Charles, you have his notebook
He's
there.
got an
This-
Excel
I said
sheet
this
where he's
on
gonna
this
say the
date,
answer.
so I will say this on this date again.
He would promise chicken nuggets every day for lunch and
They're
then
not
turn
promised
around.
me chicken
Right.
nuggets.
What are the nominations? Okay.
Where's my McDonald's straw?
So I just put candidates, need not to be present to be nominated, because it is December, you might have people,
Yeah.
So they
so.
should tell us if they're accepted, because we need to know how many
Yes.
candidates there are.
But,
obviously.
and the candidate must, accept within 15 days or whatever you can say,
Within a week, I would say.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, well, they should know that they're being nominated, right? Or like,
Nope.
who will email the candidates to make sure? Executive director will email candidates to confirm acceptance within 7 days of nomination. According to other past commissioners, he will be doing that at some point. People will not want to be
Because if you know that we can contact
I'm just
them.
saying that as this proceeds, the tendency was for nobody to want to be co-chair. So, all right, so. All right. And then maybe just say the election will follow the procedure of the ballot process from above.
Should I say all candidates? All candidates will be given an opportunity to speak at the agenda prior to the election. All right. Good.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so this one is the one, the next section.
Where we at?
The
So
co-chair
This doesn't have a header.
or
It's
vote.
removal. All right, so.
Not to sound like a broken record, this is a problem, in my view. To get 9 out of 13, as we see with Congress, is hard.
So there was a lot of time spent discussing this at the last meeting, but there was never a formal edit made because it was just discussion. There was no motion on the floor, there was no editing of it, so this is going back to what was proposed from Shandra.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I misunderstood that we were doing the majority of the commission, 7 votes at least to get the co-chair. So now the gap is wider for me between the election percentage and the removal percentage, and you're never gonna get 9, because it's basically 9 out of 12, right? Because assuming the co-chair is not gonna vote for their own removal against their will,
It's
so
also, okay.
that's, so 9 out of 12 is a huge percentage.
This also says 70%
Oh,
of
the
those present.
present, the 70%'s still a lot. So, but they're being elected with less than 50, but they're being.
No, they're not necessarily being elected. That is a worst case scenario where there'll be less than 50%. I mean, it's just,
So look at the 2 scenarios, it's 20% spread.
what are you talking about? I'm sorry.
You are-
clarify.
You are not electing them with the majority.
Well, actually, I suspect in most cases there won't be a majority vote. in
And there-
favor of each person.
I also want to say, there's been times where we've had 2 or 3 vacancies on this commission at one time, so understanding, people can resign. We haven't had one, so you don't know what that feels like to be down 2 or 3 people. But if you were to come into an election under a rule that says you have to have a 7-person majority, when you're down 2 commissioners through a resignation, it would be very difficult to have that,
So
so.
if we, I don't mean to sound clear, but we've survived the last year and no one's quit yet, so. But that doesn't resolve the problem, is that there's 70% is a lot. It's just, I like symmetry. You have the mandate of the people believe in you, then more people have to disbelieve in you to get you removed. So it's not,
So
I
what's,
don't know.
without going back to our original decision, like what would your proposal be here on this piece?
I think Mr. Don, and I don't know, because I didn't understand what was being,
So what is your proposal? Yeah.
we have to lower this percentage.
To what?
Mr. I think that, I mean, for absolute symmetry, it'd be 50, but I think that's a little volatile for the committee, for the commission. Mr. Johnson, you said, believe the last meeting you were okay with lowering it, right? I believe you said something.
I was, yes, I did say that. Don't ask me to repeat why, but yes, I did remember talking about that, and I felt that it should have been lower.
Do you have any feelings about that now?
I guess I'm just wondering, so you're basically saying that at least 50% of commissioners present, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's how a vote.
Or 51%, sorry.
50 plus one.
Plus one.
Half plus one.
Half
Yeah.
plus one.
Okay.
I mean, I get you, that's very, but then it will keep the co-chairs, I think, responsible too and accountable. Because they know that if they lose the support of the commission,
So half plus one is obviously 7, that's the majority. Half plus 2 would be 8, half plus 3 is 9. I'm just thinking through like what the different cutoffs could be.
it may be just a little bit low. I mean, 70% is very high. Wait, 9 out of 13 is how much?
That's 70%.
Yeah, and really in practice it's 9 out of 12. So that's
Right.
right. So
Unless somebody wants to do it off.
please go me off.
Yeah,
They can quit, right? How can the
and obviously, so if you're removing two co-chairs, you have to also consider that 2 of those votes are they're not gonna vote to remove themselves,
That's what I'm saying.
obviously, so you're already.
but you're
2
removing one
votes
at a time
down,
though, right? You can remove one though.
Well, it says a co-chair or both co-chairs, so
Yeah. So
it doesn't designate if you have to go
10
through
out
Two
of
separate elections, right?
2
10 out of
separate
12.
removals.
Yeah.
It just said you could probably put a motion on the floor according to this to remove both simultaneously through one vote.
I don't like that. I think that's a contingent. You should be able to remove. What do we think? So then it would be 10 out of 12
We need 10 or 12.
because if they're not going to remove themselves, if it's 2 of them, you're going to require 10. 9 out of 11, right? That's 81%. 82%. They don't vote. How about of the commissioner? How about a percentage of the commissioners
Non-co-chairs.
not including the co-chairs?
No, I don't.
Because one co-chair might want to
Oh,
vote.
Yeah, because they're allowed to vote for themselves in, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They could vote somebody else out,
Exactly.
or
well, if they were,
their vote should count.
but if they're not up for removal, they can vote. If they're up for removal, they can vote for themselves.
I think it's weird. Yeah, I think it's weird not to allow them to vote because they're allowed to vote on all other matters,
Well, I mean,
including
that's
their
not-
election.
Okay, but that's not. I'm just saying it's 9 out of 11. Then that's 81%.
I mean, I'm fine with moving it down to a simple majority, but I do think they
that's
should be able
close.
to.
That's
vote.
very close. Is there a compromise in between?
A simple majority of those present or the full commission?
Of those present.
That's even worse. No. That's
Well,
even-
we, please give
So
us
it should
some,
be.
what should it be? Tell us what it should be.
I think it should. Look, we're trying to all work together.
Yeah, but I'm just
They're
saying,
10.
like, we
Yeah,
have an
look,
idea, let's just say,
I'm
like-
expressing my ideas. If we're gonna work together as 13, we should try to be all 13 as possible. And to say like, oh, when you're not present at the meeting, so okay, we got rid of
Hey,
it.
why?
Yeah.
So you're
I'm sorry,
saying-
I
just wanna be
you
clear
asked
what you're saying.
clarification of my thought. I said my thought. I don't think it needed a large eye roll and reaction.
You're
Like,
saying- Yeah, so you're saying you think it should be 7 votes to remove versus the simple majority of those
No,
present. You
this
say
is,
you're-
I was gonna say it's contingent on this thing too, on this.
Well, we're not going back to that.
So
We're
then-
not going back to that.
Well, you guys are overruling that, so then it needs to be just a little bit lower. What is the percentage of, what is in between?
So you're going off of commissioners present, because there's difference, there's the commission as a whole, right? So regardless if they're present or not, you still have to hit that threshold as if there were, right? And then there's commissioners present. So there's two different standards there, so.
Well, I mean, they have the standard of commissioners present there, so now we have to, again, it's like apples and oranges now, it's two different scenarios. Now you have 9 out of 13, that's not commissioners present, it's 9 out of 13, or 70 commissioners present.
So Teri, if I can, I want to get your clarity what you are proposing. You're saying it should be a majority of
thinking-
the full commission? Or
I'm thinking because I'm already not happy with the first part, so I have to
Okay,
think.
you know that, but,
Right.
so I'm just
Well,
want
for
to
good
get,
reason,
What's
now
up?
we have the problem. So how about, so 9 out of 12, what is 8 out of 13?
that's like,
Percentage wise.
61. We can go in between 50 and 70, so that'd be 61,
60%.
which is that 8 out of 13, so that's 8, really, that's 8 votes.
So that, you're saying would require,
I think one more than a
8.
majority, I think might be.
but the full commission, you want it really to be the full commission.
No, you say 8 out of 13, and then you say
Right.
60%.
Right, so, yeah, okay, just wanted to get
What do you
clarity.
think? I think 70 is high. And I think it's fair. I don't think it should be 50 because that could be very volatile, right? Or 51. So maybe somewhere in between. I don't know. We can leave it as is and just try it. We could just
Well,
do
no,
that.
no one's saying that, we're
We're
talking.
we're okay with,
Well, what do we? I know. We don't want to. I mean, 9 out of 13 is a lot. It's
So
hard.
could it be, if you just change it a little bit, then you were saying it could be 8 of 13 or 60% of commissioners present? Is that,
Sure.
does that work? Just to change it a little bit to
It's
the,
just
I'm also, yeah, I'm fine either way.
60%. I mean, what do we do
So
when
if
the
there were
percentage
10
is not
people,
there?
then 6 of them.
what's that?
I think that's fair.
That's fine.
That's already a majority then.
Right.
Right, so if there's 10 present, let's see what this, if there's 9 present, it would be 5.4. So it would be, still requires 6, I think. Or do we round up or down?
Have to run it. Yeah,
Probably round up,
But that's-
to be fair.
And that's probably why it was stated as 70.
right,
Now it's coming back.
right. Because that's a good, we don't want it to be 50, so if it's 10 people there, you want it to be 60, so that's 6, right.
If it's 9, you need to be 6. No, you can do 5, but that's a simple majority. 5 is a simple majority.
Yeah, like, to be consistent,
Or you could say +1, simple majority
Plus
+1.
one.
but that's back to, that's not 8 anymore. I mean, oh yeah,
That
yes,
is
you're
it.
right, it's
Yeah.
simple majority, no, it's not, simple majority +1 is 7.
No, it's 8, it's 8.
Should we
Right,
just make it a
sorry.
simple majority? I mean, I feel like we're
Or simple majority
overcomplicating
+1
it.
would be
No, I
fine.
think that's very volatile.
I would tend to agree that we should have a little bit, like, a simple majority +1 would then be
Yeah.
like clear, it's like, it's 8, of the full commission, it's, always more than half. I mean, a little bit more, actually. So let's see, if it's 10 people present, simple majority, that'd still be 7 out of 10, that's 70%.
Oh, that's no. So it has
So
to
that
be.
doesn't quite work.
How about, okay, so we do 8 out of 13, 60%, and if there's a conflict with 60%, then it's simple majority +1. Right, if it's like 5.4, then it's simple majority +1. If it's a decimal amount, then
Always round
60%, always
Always round up.
round up. I think that's fair. We should see, can we do the math here? So 10,
10 would be 6, 9 would be 6,
I think that's fair.
8 would be 5.
Mhm. Let's go
7
further
would be
down,
4.
7. When do we not have quorum? 7, right? We need 7.
So 7 would be 4.
7's your cutoff, yeah.
So I think are those good numbers? And maybe we'd write them out. Are we comfortable with these numbers? Or we could just write it out. 13, 12, 11, just write it out. What is necessary?
Whatever gets us through the night here.
I mean, well, like Jason said, would there be any conflicts if 2 people resign and we don't have a certain?
Well, if we're going based off attendance, so a co-chair, both co-chairs may remove through a majority vote. The majority
What do you next meeting?
is determined.
It's 7:53. What do
How
we
far
want
are
to do?
we? We
We're
should
not
get
ready.
through 7:44.
We
Yeah,
have
let's
7 minutes
Do you
left.
want to meet again before the next
Yeah,
meeting?
really.
Unless you can extend it 10 minutes formally through a vote to just get through this.
Well, we're not, highly doubt we're gonna get through 1.4.5.
Well,
we could
1.5.
make 4.
With 1.4.4, you could vote though.
Right,
we
but
gotta
there's
do
only
4.4.
one paragraph left in
Yeah.
1.4.4.
Let's do 4.4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. I think we can get through that in the next 7 minutes.
That's the essential thing.
My only request for 4.5 is that whatever we do for this is maintained.
All right, so
But
tell
we're
me,
not discussing 1.4.5.
I know, but that was the original problem. You have to balance the powers between all of these entities. And if you have the removal rates different, it's just consistent. Okay, so are we writing 10?
required is determined using a scale based on attendance at the meeting. So here we go. Let's
It's getting
go.
more-
Let's go through the numbers. Let's go. If we got
13.
13, what is the scale? 13 attendees.
You need 60%, you need 8.
Okay. 8 votes required.
Now we're getting exciting, Charles,
Yes.
we're getting,
12 attendees.
now we can actually enact something. 12 is, 60% is. $7.2, so it's 8 again.
8 again.
I think the even numbers are the same.
So 11. So then we go down to 7, right? Probably.
I'm gonna extend by 10 minutes just because it's 7:55, okay? I'll say aye.
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 All right, so it stays 7 again.
Mhm.
And we're down to
So
6 here.
maybe- Yes.
And then, 7 attendees. We're down to 5 or 4?
185 is 5,
Maybe it's 5.
8 is 1.
I'm doing that.
8 is 5. Okay, yeah, correct me if I'm.
Maybe not everyone is, let me see.
Not everyone is 2, right? So
Yeah,
we don't always go
7.
down by 2. So double check me here. 7 attendees, 4.
10 is 6.
Alright.
10 is 6.
10 is 6.
I thought we said, so that's 60%.
So we're doing 60%.
We're doing 60%?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Or if it's in between,
We're rounding up.
we're rounding up if there's a decimal.
And if you want, I could double check the math and
11,
make sure we're
yeah.
always,
Does that seem fair to everybody?
So, wait, 7 or 4, I don't think that's right. 4 and 7,
4.2. Needs 5 votes then.
yeah, it would be 5.
right here.
So one thing is, if we have a vacancy,
Yeah,
there,
what happens?
yeah.
Well, it says you can have 1 chair, so,
Well, I know, but I'm saying like if there's only, we're saying that like, that a quorum could be less than 7 if there's a vacancy on the commission.
Well, if there's one vacancy, quorum might still be 7 because it's 50% plus 1.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
if
think you
it's
could just,
11, then
maybe it
it's
doesn't matter, but
6. Right. No, I was thinking the same thing. When you
Yeah.
mentioned that, I was thinking about that.
are we keeping the 2 weeks notice?
that 5 votes for 7.
That's tough, yeah.
That's
But
tough,
it's
if
a
7
math.
people aren't showing up, and 6 people aren't showing up, they're not being
That's-
represented.
Yeah,
They
60%?
should, I think it should be that
I-
high, because if half the commission's gone for whatever reason.
is so close to 5.
I know, but we gotta be we just have to round up.
Yeah, because we rounded up
Yeah.
at this point here.
You
Yeah.
could round
so-
down on 12 too, you know, you can round down to 7 if you had to. I know, but I think if half the commission's gone, I mean,
That should have some.
Yeah.
that's, you don't want that majority to be able to pull it across just with, right, with all the votes, so. Oh my God, there must be some
So-
mathematician that can do all this.
So would this be allowed to be, this can't be done in a special meeting? You want to say that it can only be done at a regular meeting? Because
Yeah,
special
that's it.
meetings, you can have that 7 you know, those are wonky, so you can plan a special meeting
And
and,
it has to be
and
announced.
knowing that only 7 will
We have
be
to announce
there.
it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it says you have to give 2 weeks notice.
Yeah, so that's 2 weeks' notice, and I could add here that,
And for just cause, I think, that should be fair, like, there has to be an articulation of the reason.
well, if you put that in there, then you
Not
run
just
into a whole host of
legal.
evidentiary. You have to prove your reasoning for that, and that becomes a nightmare in Robert's rules. You have to conduct a trial. It's a real messy, nasty.
Alright, so what do we,
Yeah.
I just don't wanna, I think we should owe it to the people to say, this is
It
why
can't
we're
just be
moving.
because we don't like.
Yeah, we don't like you,
Yeah.
we got mad at you.
Well, you're saying here for commissioner, it still needs a second, right? So you
There has to be a discussion,
um,
I just want the
well,
public.
sure, it
to
is a
know.
motion, so you would have a discussion, absolutely. You know, but I don't think you need to prove anything, so people can, in these types of things, people come with their feelings, or they're coming with potentially hearsay, unless you wanna make it really, really formal. You know, and that is a difficult one. You know,
Does it say in there that it's, what does it say, scroll down a little bit?
I think this should go above that, what do you think? Shouldn't this come here at the top of removal of, the requirements for it before we?
I think so.
So
And
we put-
the co-chairs cannot, like, disallow that on the agenda at the next meeting, right? They can't they can't just stop it from being on the agenda.
There, should we put, the notice must include a reason or an argument, include
Reason,
a,
for removal, I just think, yeah,
an,
just for the public's benefit, too.
argument
Yeah.
for removal.
Argument, I would just say reason.
Should we say that it's an email must be sent to the full commission?
Yeah,
Like, how else would you do it?
Pigeon,
Well, I mean, like,
carrier pigeon.
out.
It's
Based on
okay
how
to
we
email,
operate,
well, it's okay to
people don't
email,
respond.
but you can't have the conversation about it, right? So that's the point of it. You can't argue back if someone includes a reason in email, because you have to do that arguing in front of the public, right?
Right, so,
what was your concern about it, Mr. Johnson?
just it being an email, like, I would, like, because you're gonna make a motion, the notice is gonna lead to a motion, right?
Right.
So,
Maybe the motion can be made, maybe the motion needs to be sent by email. Articulated.
So if a commissioner call for a vote, you're right, the motion should articulate the reasoning, right? So that's whoever's crafting the motion should articulate in their motion their reasoning for removal, right? You could say that the reasoning doesn't need to be supported by evidence, but debate, you must have a debate, before the vote per the regular rules, something along that line, right? So, or you could say co-chairs are allowed to rebut, have a right to rebut, the reasons
Yeah.
they get, because typically the way we do motions isn't always correct. So whoever makes the motion in recorded Robert's rules gets to have the floor first to make their reasoning, and then per Robert's rules, it's supposed to be then the person in opposition gets a counter argument immediately. So maybe in this instance, if a motion is made, and the motion outlines the reasons, then the floor is deferred to the chair that's being potentially removed to discuss or rebut the motion. So I don't think you need to have, maybe you don't have a debate, it's only the motion bringer, and then you give the floor goes immediately to the chair to say their piece in defense, and then you carry the vote, right?
You need a second.
Yeah, well, you need a second, yes, you do need a second to the motion. It's Caleb coming back up.
So then there's a discussion, we have a right to say their piece, other commissioners, like it's regular discussion, and then there's a vote, it's just like any regular motion. I think it's good to make them state, it doesn't have to be evident, Charles, you're still uncomfortable.
it just, the way it's worded sounds good to me. Like, should it
And
say,
the commissioner
like,
wishes to call for a vote.
Like,
What if you send a motion?
Call, how was it to call for the removal? You don't need the vote. It's a motion, so it's obviously implied. If the commissioner wishes to call for the removal of one or both of the co-chairs, comma, an email must be sent to the full commission making a formal request.
What if they just say
The
with their
motion,
intention to
This
declaring
formal-
their intention? That way they're not making any formal request via email, but that could I put that in because my feeling was if there's gonna be a call, like a vote for the removal of co-chairs, I think people should know that in advance so that they can attend the meeting.
They should have the motion there, so we.
Yeah,
so
that's fine with me.
here's what I put, if a commissioner was to call for a vote for removal of one or both co-chairs, an email must be sent to the full commission containing the motion which outlines the reasoning for the removal.
I like that.
Sure.
Do we need the vote there?
The
Like,
motion
call
must-
for-
Be included on the next, on the,
On the next meeting's agenda,
next meeting's
regular meeting's agenda.
agenda.
Regular meetings agenda, and cannot be blocked by the co-chairs. So we have to-
So then we say that shall be, right, the motion shall be included on the next regular meeting's agenda.
That's enough, I mean, it says
Shall.
Yeah,
shall.
Well, shall is always,
Yeah.
will, it just means will, that's all.
there
It means
will
must.
be no debate, there must be a second, so this is probably the best way I can think of it, you guys are, there must be a second, and
The co-chairs must be given the opportunity to respond.
yes, the
To their
co-chairs,
Will be.
The named
there
co-chairs.
must be a second, there will be no normal debate, however,
No, what does that mean?
it means
Like
you
it won't
don't,
go to-
every person isn't gonna put their 2 cents in, right? This is the person calling for the removal, they outline their case in the motion, right? And the only piece of debate is the rebuttal from the co-chairs, and then you call for a vote, right?
But does
That
it-
way, there's not a million people arguing, and it
Yeah.
doesn't get intense, right? It's only 2 people get the floor, the person who brought the motion, and then the person who, then they get a chance to make their case in rebuttal, and then then a vote will
However,
be
I
called.
think the person has to, they can't exclude the thoughts of the other, with their motion, they have to represent the thoughts of the other commissioners though. So we don't go round and round, but they should say, there's a commissioner that said this, these
No.
Well,
are.
I would hope they would do that if they're,
You
you
can't
know.
help it.
Before they-
Why are you obscuring this? People have a right to know when someone's being removed from leadership, what is the reason?
But
And we,
But I'm just saying, to say that they must include the perspective of other people, so you're asking them to go around and,
well, the other alternative is to have a normal debate, because I think
Okay.
like my reasons for removing somebody might be different from.
And you may not feel that.
You may, and somebody might be in disagreement. I think the minority might.
sure, I mean, then they would express their, yeah, I mean, I think, and also part of the point of letting people know 2 weeks in advance is so that people can also talk to one another. So if you really feel strongly that,
Would that be included in, if you're relying on one person, I would, if you told me everything, I would say this, Commissioner said this, or, not names, but like, there is this opinion, there's this opinion, there's this opinion.
I guess my concern with like mandating that, I point well taken, but my concern with mandating that is then you're creating an opportunity for people to misrepresent what other people have said, they might not say it correctly, or they might
That's
misunderstand what
fine,
the
so
person
I
said.
think it should be a normal debate, let us debate it, I'm fine with that, so.
Hmm.
I know, but that's the alternative, because otherwise the things aren't said. I mean, if we're removing somebody, I think like, the public deserves to know why.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, could we just like each person who wants to say something, give like a written statement to that person that's doing the debate so they can speak, but it.
Or limit the debate's time.
I wasn't the one who said anything about not debating. I think I see Jason's point about like it could get really messy and really bad, but I like Commissioner Zayed's thought of like submitting something in writing.
Yeah, because that way the person who's presenting it
Yeah,
can say,
you
this
know, do
statement is from,
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
anybody who wants to submit something can in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Then
would
they
just,
know the votes, then everybody knows.
mean, I think something to.
Maybe a word
if not
limit.
If not eliminate debate, at least limit it. I mean, I think I agree with Jason that we don't want to just have a free for all. We need to find some ways to.
Maybe a word limit though.
I would be in favor of like eliminating debate altogether, but if you all don't like that,
I will too.
I don't know.
How do we preserve the articulation?
I think if there's one person who has taken the step to do this, made the motion, and has the drive-in need to do this, then that person can speak, and others can speak with their votes.
Yeah.
And you have the co-chair in question can, make their rebuttal, and I would be most comfortable with that, to be honest.
That would be my preference. My second preference would be.
However, then whatever's said is put on the onus of the person with the motion.
Well, if they really believe in their motion, that's okay.
I really don't think that I don't think the votes are articulated well of like the full. It just allows people to abstain, allows them to, no one should be abstaining unless there's a conflict or a lack of knowledge. We're really misusing that as a way to obscure our votes, so. What do
We're
you
at,
think,
we're
Jason?
at our extension time here, and we do have a member of the public who came back, so, you might want to,
Well, we need to extend by 10 more minutes, okay, so we can vote on this, finalize this, because we had to take this out of committee. Is there anything else? We need to finish this. Kayla, do you have anything to say? No. Thank you.
This is vote.
Is that done?
so,
Are we
well,
done?
we're not done
We're
with
not
this
done
then,
yet.
so
Okay,
are
so 10
we?
more minutes, okay.
So just give me, the directive here, what we want to write here with the.
I would like to make it like, maybe you should leave it open and just see what, I know
No.
it's
I'm sorry. I feel strongly about that. I do not agree with that.
well, then you have to tell me how to preserve the information then.
There's two ways. One is a written thing, or you could have a strictly time limit.
I like the
Anybody
written
who wants to
version.
speak can speak for 2 minutes
Yeah, 2 minutes.
or something. I mean, I'm.
No.
All right.
No.
Right, I feel like what is our agenda? I mean, we have people who are in support of limiting debate to just the two people. So that's what I would go with. I mean, sorry, it's just like.
My first choice is limiting the debate to those two statements or doing the written statement as an alternative.
If that's,
And that's optional, that's not even
Yeah.
necessary.
okay, I'm
That's
cool with
just-
that.
Yeah.
So then it's like
I think we should put a limit though, like no more than,
1 page or something.
oh God, 1 page? So you have to get up and read
No,
a
we can't.
page?
No, it would just
single
be
page.
submitted written.
It's very.
Submitted.
Oh, for people to read, so they don't get, it doesn't get
It's
read.
not read out
read
loud, but
publicly.
it's
Oh,
entered
okay.
into the whatever.
No, it should be
Okay.
read out
But
loud.
it could be written, I mean, it could be voiced out loud.
Well,
by the
I
person
understand
giving
your
the
like
argument.
desire to limit the conflict, but we're like limiting speech. It's really not.
No, but it's
good
not.
for
It's a written document and people, I don't know.
It's still,
So you're feeling like it should be spoken?
If someone wants, then just don't write a statement if you don't want it to be read. That's all.
I mean,
That's
you can just say each commissioner will then be given one opportunity to speak, so that it
Let them
doesn't go on forever, you know,
Just
you
let them
can just say,
Oh, 5,
you know.
2 minutes, 5 minutes.
Where does
2
that
minutes.
come from?
2 minutes?
30
I
seconds.
think that,
5 seconds. They can choose one word to describe how they feel.
no, I
Please,
think,
if
Right.
it's not in
I don't think each person, I think it should be the two people, and if some other person wants something to say, they can give that person their written statement,
Okay.
a brief written statement.
500 words, it's 500 words, half a
250
page,
words.
Let's not let them,
250
okay, if
words.
somebody wants to write 10 pages, I mean, God.
No, a brief
No.
written statement.
They're not going to, they're not.
And
going
it's,
to.
and I mean, if you decide, let's say if it's you and I give it to you and you decide not to read it, that's on you, but I think.
No, I'll
should
read
be
it, I'll
put to
read
the
everything
record.
that someone gives.
I think there needs to be a limit.
There needs to be a limit. So we're getting closer. We're gonna limit verbal debate, verbal comment from the bringer of the motion and the co-chair in
Mhm.
question. And then option for other commissioners to submit to the bringer of the motion a brief written statement
If I write something, I would like it to be read. I will keep it brief.
to be,
To
well,
be read. They can't
So
choose.
what is
Then
the
why
not
don't we
to.
just say that any, you know, you're getting this in advance, right? So you're already, people know that this is coming, right? So you could say that any commissioner who, you know, in support or against needs to, I don't know, they need to, you know, talk to those people and let them
Yeah.
incorporate what the spirit of their words into their defense or to what would be, you know, so I would think knowing 2 weeks in advance, you would probably come in there thinking you already know where you stand and what side you're on. Also, I would assume that you would have conversations with the person you're either in defense of or against and
It's not
make
out
your
of-
point. You know?
It's like out of public view, there's not an active debate that someone's rebutting. You know, that's the problem. I get what you were saying, but I'm just saying, this is is there any liability to limiting the speech this way?
Well, there's lots of things in Robert's rules that have no debate.
So we have an idea here to submit brief written comment to the bringer of the motion.
Say max
Optional.
500 words.
200 words.
Okay.
250 words.
250 words.
250
Yeah.
words, yeah.
That 250 words is about a paragraph, right?
So are we limiting this co-chair's rebuttal then?
Well, why don't you just say that anyone who wishes to speak, knowing that this is coming, has to already submit or say that they intend time, you know, at
Yeah.
this, so.
We've got a proposal here.
No, that first
A written
half is
statement.
set in stone, 2 people.
Yeah.
What I think we say that,
Now we're debating the written statement.
We have
Yeah.
4 people who are generally in agreement with this.
well, and I
Sorry,
think too,
Teri.
but I think it's also clear that people in support of them can also submit a 250
You could do that too.
to the other person, yeah. So I think that
Who's the other person that argues, the
The
minority?
co-chair.
The co-chair argues themselves? They should have a
Yeah.
minority argue themselves.
no,
Yeah,
the
they should be
co-chair
free. That's
defends
like-
themselves.
Okay, that's not how it is in a court of law, but like.
Well,
there's-
we're not-
Pro se. They are acting pro se, I guess.
It's also,
Wait,
We're
do
not
the
gonna hire
co-chairs,
attorneys on this
do the
one.
co-chairs have each an opportunity to speak separately?
Well,
No,
there's-
whoever
they're both
came
under-
Yeah, they would
Give that right to somebody else? Just throwing it out there, could it be a choice? They say, I can,
Yeah, I can
defend
give it to
myself
them,
or-
or I can
Yeah,
give
that's a
someone
good
else.
it's
idea.
actually,
They think
it's
it's-
compelling.
And what if
It's
they
not
want a
wrong.
lawyer? I don't know.
No, you're not getting a lawyer.
I don't
You're joking, right? I mean, they're not gonna-
No.
I'm sorry.
Lots of things have
No.
seemed like jokes
They
until
can
they
take us
happen.
to, they can take us to court, I guess, but they cannot have a lawyer representing them on the commission. That's
I am not, I'm thinking like
I object.
like the last year has taught me.
Objection overruled.
Like myself.
You need
I
representation.
hope- There were a couple
Can
people
we
watching.
just all
this.
hire lawyers to talk for us and argue so we don't have to do it anymore? We could just
we should,
program little robot lawyers and they run the.
You're gonna hire a lawyer for $8,000 a year?
No, we're gonna make a robot and then stick our consciousness into
I
it.
think that, I wonder if our meetings would go better or worse if we all brought a lawyer who represented us at each meeting.
No, I think everybody has to have their own little Robert's Rules specialist. Sorry, don't say that.
Are we taking dibs on all the lawyers of the lawyers of the.
All right, so are we good? We gotta get going here.
So
All
we
right,
did,
so-
so what are we doing with the next part of this? So I think that's a good idea,
Alright,
that
so
to have, they can designate someone else
bringer,
because
that's a term,
of
bringer of
the
motion.
emotions involved in it.
Bringer of
You know.
motion.
Or designated,
Or
followed by the chair or board chairs who are the
So
subject
then-
of the debate.
I think commissioners may submit to,
Designated, not design commissioner.
Yeah.
it says designated, right?
It says
Design.
design.
On mine,
I don't
oh,
have my
the
glasses.
second one, I was looking
I
at
don't
the
have my
second one.
glasses on, so.
I think commissioners should be well designed. That would solve a lot of problems.
Alright,
Okay, what else?
we're getting slap happy here.
We need to say the thing about the statements
Yeah,
that
and
each,
then we're done.
Each commissioner, including the co-chairs,
Alright, so.
is there a limit on the co-chair's ability to speak for themselves?
No.
No?
was there a limit on the bringer of the
We-
motion? It doesn't say what the limit of the bringer of the motion is.
During a normal debate, how
It's
much?
20,
We've never had a time limit.
We're not, we should,
20 minutes each, 10 and 10, 10 and back forth, 10 again.
I don't think that's what we're talking about.
No, just the total amount of
Yeah.
time.
I'd say
Yeah,
4 hours each should cover it.
I think that we should also have a
let's
brief.
have a congressional time limit, like less than the US Congress.
Okay, each
Filibuster.
commissioner may submit a statement
A brief.
of support
Or
or
Statements for not to exceed 200
no, at
words.
250, maximum, a statement, yeah, not to exceed 250 words.
That's very.
Words, in support
Or,
for either the,
or in support.
The
or in
motion.
opposition to the motion.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Or in opposition to the motion, for removal.
Maybe should those be read by a neutral party instead of having each
So I
side?
think like it's like one commissioner, you're putting all of it on.
Right, I mean, I think we could have the executive director read it.
I mean, you might as well let them read their own if there's, because that
Yeah.
negates the time limit. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if they have a word limit and it has to be something, you might as well let them read their own.
So I just think you should let them read their own,
You read
250, and you stop them. There's a word count, it should be just a time.
Statement in
I
advance.
know.
Who?
Why not just have the executive director read
I
it?
think.
All right.
I have a question, like a.
And then he can check it, or whoever.
No, we're just taking our responsibilities way further and further away from the, we should be responsible.
This is a lot.
I think it will also muddy, yeah.
Go ahead.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say have it read by another person. And then you can give each other person, the motion bringer and the co-chair, you can give them a time
I
limit.
predict there's gonna be, this rule may not pass in December if we keep adding things to this.
Well, because we-
I think we
This
should
is
stop, I just,
What are you saying, Charles?
I was just saying we didn't even have to put this in here.
I know, I didn't think so, I just think let it,
But what do you
Like
think we
this
should
stuff
do?
here?
What's your, you wanted to limit it to 2 people, right?
Correct.
Okay, I like that.
But I do think what other people think should be expressed in some way. But
You know, given how complicated this is getting, I'm sort of with Charles here. I think we just go back to, you know, there's a motion, there's a second, 2 people have a chance to speak, and that's it. And there's a vote.
Isn't there,
so that just basically says we all either caucus about it, I mean, it's very, we're doing,
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen
we're doing
anyway.
discussion out
It's
of,
gonna
I mean,
happen
this,
anyway.
That's what's gonna happen
Yeah,
anyway.
but-
So like, what if I?
no, but this is, we talk so much about Open Meetings Act, this is the
No.
We're
part
at
that's
10
missing
minutes, we're
now.
at 10 more minutes, we're at 10 more minutes.
All right, 10 more minutes, let's just.
No,
get
we
this
can't
done.
keep doing
Okay,
this. I gotta go
okay.
home. I got kids at home.
So what are we gonna do? I mean, you guys go ahead, because I disagree with this right now,
Well, it
so.
says may submit, so
yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to.
let's just leave that.
But if you want to,
That's
you
fine.
can,
Let's just-
you won't be silent.
It's good. It's done. Let's just vote. I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Wait, there's more, isn't there? There's this,
Stop
last
right here.
paragraph.
That the commission may designate other officers as it sees fit to support the chair in the operation of the commission. Positions must be added to the manual along with a clear description of powers and duties associated with that position. Any position must be filled by a vote when there is more than one candidate interested in the position.
Created must be filled by vote when there is.
Okay.
What,
Seems
by vote by the same rules, should we say? Majority vote? Or what? No, how do you vote? Because it's still by the same rules as the election,
Sure.
sure, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just referring to any vote,
Yeah,
it'd be a simple majority, just a motion.
yeah, but it's a vote for 2 candidates, so it should just follow our regular.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Jason, what would an officer, like what would?
You might wanna, right now, you might want a treasurer, a secretary, a sergeant at arms, who knows? I mean, who knows? There's a lot of different formal titles and boards and commissions.
Okay. Are we done?
Yep.
Just gotta vote.
We're done? We are never done in this.
The work is
standing
never
committee.
done.
So I make a motion to pass 1.4.4 as debated and discussed and.
Seconded.
And we will add periods and things wherever they're necessary.
So we have it.
I
seconded.
Okay, so let's call for the vote. Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Lier,
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed,
Aye.
and I vote aye, motion passes, thank you. When would we like to work on 1.45?
We have a
Oh,
first Wednesday meeting scheduled, so
Mhm.
we'll just do first Wednesday of January, although that might be
no.
January what?
January 3rd, that would be.
Oh, okay, I thought you
So
said
regularly
first. I thought
scheduled
The
you
first
said-
Wednesday. would
Okay,
be
first
January
First
3rd.
one is January.
Okay,
That's our next
because I
meeting.
would,
It's our regularly scheduled meeting.
but at this rate, we will not be able to get through all the other rules, so we need to quicken the pace. I will The only thing that, I'll edit 1.45, I guess, okay.
Would you like to send us something? Yeah, please do.
No, I guess some of the other ones, any other drafts? So we're not doing January 1st, because that's not possible.
January 3rd,
3rd,
that seems possible.
January 3rd, okay?
Yes.
It's in my calendar.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So 6, is that okay, Charles? You know, not be on vacation, okay. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Anybody want week-old pizza?
What?
Anybody want some week-old pizza?